my school's newspaper. I quit with only 2 days left of the semester. Some may say it was spontaneous and irrational. I say it was the right thing to do if I wanted to conserve what little brain cells I had left. You see, our staff consisted of many members of the right wing. Now, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against the right wing. I was raised conservative by 2 very conservative parents. But there's a difference between being conservative and being alt-right. I don't want to spend much of my time trying to be politically correct, but the alt-right represents ideologies that have long since been frowned upon, like white nationalism, bigotry, anti-Semitism, misogyny, and xenophobia. Our staff members believed in this kind of hatred. Our editor-in-chief, the highest of us all, wrote a letter from the editor about how, quote, white privilege doesn't exist and is a term created by liberals to suppress Republican ideology, end quote. He also went on to mention that racism is no longer an issue because, quote, slavery was over 150 years ago, get over it, end quote. This sentiment has been fueled by the recent election of our president, whose campaign was based on the platform of Muslims as terrorists, Mexicans as rapists, blacks as savages, and females as weak. The success of his campaign only emphasizes how mainstream these feelings really are. Today, we will scrutinize the existence of white privilege within our nation. The only logical way to analyze for this growing issue is to first look at how it originated, then where we see it, and finally, rather than building a wall to solve for our problems, how can we build bridges? And to take a leaf out of our president's book, we'll grab him by the privilege by using real facts and studies rather than alternative news. Georgia State University published a study in 2012 that examined the history of white privilege, stating that racism and discrimination have been stains on the American culture since its inception, when the founding fathers decided against outlawing slavery while drafting the first set of laws for the newly founded nation. With that decision, people of color would always be seen as less than whites from the beginning. Property, not people. Before and directly after the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was implemented, which outlawed any discrimination, activists and scholars implemented the term white privilege to describe the structural and governmentally perpetuated privilege that had been consciously given to whites. This privilege allows whites to obtain legal advantages over minorities. Despite the political rights and power that minorities obtained in the late 20th century, the supremacist ideologies and racist beliefs that were indoctrinated into the American culture are still prevalent today. But no longer is it the blatant practice upheld by the law and celebrated by beatings and hangings and lynchings, and we may not see Confederate flags flying out in the wind or signs relegating the use of separate facilities, but we do see that white privilege has taken on a more covert form. So where do we see white privilege? When a white person sees a law enforcement officer, they usually feel protected and safe, whereas when a person of color sees law enforcement, they feel fearful and insecure. This can be seen with the 41 bullets shot at Amadou Diallo, or the 50 that killed Sean Bell, or the broom that sodomized Abner Louima, or Walter Scott, Jonathan Farrell, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, and the countless of other African Americans who have lost their lives due to systemic racism. The Washington Post published a study that found that white Americans make up 49% of those killed by law enforcement annually, while being 73% of the overall population. African Americans, on the other hand, make up 24% of those fatally shot and killed by law enforcement annually, despite only being 13% of the overall population. The Post published an analysis in January of 2017 that these numbers mean that African Americans are 2.5 times more likely to be stopped, shot, and killed than white Americans. When a student of color comes in to be disciplined at school, they usually receive a harsher treatment than their white counterparts. The U.S. Department of Education published statistics in 2016 that found that African American students were 3.8 times more likely to be suspended or expelled than their white counterparts who committed the same offense. When a person of color comes in to sign up for a job or for an interview, they are 50% likely to get a call back if they have a black-sounding name, a study conducted in 2003 found. But wait, guys, it gets even better. You see, if you are one of the lucky people of color hired, you get paid even less than your white coworkers. Wow, is that privilege or what? The Pew Research released statistics in 2013 that found that African American males make 73 cents to every dollar their white male coworkers make. African American females make even less, with 60 cents to every dollar doing the same work. When a student of color comes in to sign up for a history class, it's not their history they're learning about, it's white people's history. I mean, sure, we're briefly featured in the chapters about slavery and the Civil War, but the majority of our history textbooks cater to their white audiences. African American history, on the other hand, is usually an elective, optional, and not an encouraged course to take. Now, going shopping is actually my least favorite thing to do, despite being a girl and all. You see, if I'm looking for hair products, I'm forced to search the aisles for 15 minutes before finally finding the ethnic hair products squished in the bottom corner and the price 5 times more than normal hair products. If I need a Band-Aid, I'm restricted to buying the nude-colored ones, even though their nude isn't my nude. Same thing goes for bras and tank tops and pantyhose, and white is not my nude. If I'm at the store with a security guard, the officer always seems to shift his position to make sure I am always in his line of vision, because I am found guilty by color of skin rather than committing a sin. If I'm at the cash register, the cashier always seems to take a long, hard look at me, and then to the card, and then back to me. Maybe she's wondering why I'm not using a food stamp card, or she's waiting for the screen to flash decline, or she's thinking, who did I have to jump to get this card? For my peers to deny my experiences really hurts. And then for them to go on and define white privilege and racism for me when they haven't even experienced neither should not happen in the 21st century. To solve for white privilege, we must first address that it exists, because frankly, it does. Second, we must begin to have the mentality of equity, not equality. Equality would be like me giving everyone in this room the same size glove, even though we don't have the same sized hand. I, for one, have hands similar to our president's. Small, but not orange. Equity would be like me giving everyone in this room the glove that fits their hand. We must begin to identify the community of people and their different needs and provide for them what they must have to be successful. Third, we must never deny anyone on the basis of their identity, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation. We must begin to practice having an open mind and a kind heart. And that right there is the key to having a society that stands in solidarity.